All right. Hi there. I'm Melissa Helland, Assistant Branch Manager at the Bellevue office with Skyline Properties. And today I have with me Scott Farrell with Tycor Title. Um, Glad to have you with us. We're going to uh, be going over quickly how important a title report is, whether you're a listing broker or a buyer broker. You want to make sure you're reviewing the title report. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And Scott, why don't you go ahead and kind of point out
Okay,
some things.
I think we can skip right to, well, the first page has the title order number. Some people call it the commitment number. And then it's on that, all of it's on that page. We could just go to page 2. And what's helpful here is it has the title officer's phone number, email. If you want to reach out to them, have questions, I'd really recommend doing that instead of your title rep. That's probably who you know, or you're comfortable with, but they're probably not available as a title officer and generally not as knowledgeable. So I would just try to reach out to that title officer. And then when you reference that order number, it speeds it up. Down there on page or item 4, it says the vesting or title is vested in. So the vesting is who's on title. And the reason you want to look at that is just to make sure if you think you're, just dealing with your young husband and wife, you want to make sure that maybe there's, a married couple, you also could be a third person on there, so a co-signer, maybe their parents or something like that. So all those people need to be available when it comes to signing. So that's the reason for checking out the vesting. Then the next page is page 3, and we get into the legal description, which it's obviously says Exhibit A, and then that's the one that the title customer service will send a warranty deed copy. That's in the first day. This is the one. Well, this is probably where Melissa would like to jump
Yeah,
in.
jump in. If you know you have an upcoming listing, um, I would go ahead and say your listing is going to go active in 7 days. I would go ahead and order that preliminary title report so you get the accurate Exhibit A legal description, and you can upload that legal description in your listing supplements. That way it's there for somebody who is going to be putting in an offer.
Yeah, and the timing on that too would be just, 3 or 4 days before, a week, even a month before. It's one thing you could just do to get out of the way, but you just don't want to wait till the day before you're going to put it on the market and then request it. That's all. Um, then the thing about title reports would get a lot of people confused and intimidated is, oh my gosh, there's so much I don't know. So what I'm going to help is get through the clutter, and pages 4 through 9 are all these very general boilerplate forms and items that really are not things that you need to worry about or need to take a look at. So we're going to skip right up to page 10 to where it says special exceptions. And it's just fun to do that on so the special exceptions are that's where you see every recorded document, and title companies have to show everything with public records, even when it comes to old ones from the 1950s when they were developing the plat, things like that. So they have to include things like drainage easements, all the anything that had to do with when the developer was doing it going way back. So then the stuff you really want to look at are, like water, utility, gas, sewer, they run with the property. But it would be good just to make sure that you're aware of those in case they run through the property and people had an idea of putting a shed or a pool or something like that. It's good to check those. Um, that's all the stuff you see there. And then when you skip to there's a lot of easements, and as Melissa is scrolling through those, there's so many more with a condominium because there's just so much of the common buildings, common ground, all that stuff like that. This one is a single family, so it's not too bad. But it will come to the CC&Rs, and that's something that's very specific and important, and Melissa will touch on that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to item 13 and covenants, conditions, restrictions and easements. These are the things that you want to look at, you and your buyer, especially if you're representing a buyer, that right here, there's a hyperlink that takes you to all the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, also known as CC&Rs. This is really important for you to look at, because what if you have a buyer that has an RV and wants to park the RV on the property, but the CC&Rs restrict that from happening. Especially with HOAs, you want to pay really close attention to the CC&Rs. Read them, have your buyer read them. I also always recommend having a Form 22T, which is your title contingency, when you're writing up an offer. So you allow your clients time to review the title report and ensure that they can do what they want to do with the property.
And then I'd say the next most important thing is number 17, the property taxes. And one thing it does, the assessment, it gives you just an idea of what the county sees the property be assessed for, like 541,000, has land improvement or the structure built out. So when they're if they're delinquent, it's really straightforward. It'll say delinquent. In this case, they're current because it doesn't say that. And then, as you know, April and October, that's when taxes are due. The only time you have problem with property taxes is when people don't have a loan, they have to pay the taxes on their own. So that's really important to make sure they're current. And then sometimes in a case of estates, the property's been owned free and clear, people live there forever and they just didn't have the income to pay the property taxes. So that the good thing is that can be paid through closing, through the proceeds. So that the people who are selling it don't have to come up with the money to pay the property taxes. They can take it right out of the proceeds. And then the next part is when you go to the next page in item 19 and 20, that's just showing what's owed against the property. Deeds of trust, it's a loan, same thing. And this one, in this case, the older one dated in 2015, that's probably when she purchased it. That was the original loan. And then in 2024, just a few months ago, she did a refinance for 300,000. So it's nothing to be alarmed about. They just haven't done the reconveyance, or the reconveyance hasn't been done yet, and that would remove the older loan. So all that homeowner would have to do is say, hey, here's a settlement statement from the refinance I did. They can give that to escrow, but escrow's not even involved yet. This is just a preliminary title, at the beginning stages. But it would just be a good idea to know if they have an equity line on there, and then something like that don't even know if there's a balance or not. But it's good to have a conversation with your client, or even have an idea of what's owed against the property.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I would keep in mind is say they want to list the house for 350, and they may not have enough equity in the property to cover the sale of the property.
Right.
Most sellers, I think, know what they owe on the properties, but you're looking at this deed of trust, and you just want to make sure you're aware of what they owe and what the house is worth. And if it's worth 350, they may not be able to get the net proceeds, or they may have to come in with money to close the property. So you just want to be cognizant of that. And that's why it's important to look at this information.
Exactly. I'd say similar to that, these items that I'm going to mention don't show in the title report, so that's a good thing for this one. But the next thing that could show up after the deeds of trust doesn't have to be in a particular order, but this section of the title report, the special exceptions that you really want to pay attention to. The last thing I'd say is there are things that maybe the seller doesn't want to disclose and they were embarrassed to say that they had a bankruptcy. That's a really big thing because they have to get that approved by a bankruptcy judge, by the trustee and stuff. Another thing is just like liens, judgments, IRS liens. So people say, oh, no, I paid that off. Well, it's still showing. It still shows as a lien on there. A DSHS for not payment of child support, lack of dissolution of marriage, mechanics liens. So things like that, they would get addressed. But those are just things that now you could have a conversation with the seller if that's your client. And then just be aware of these are the things that are going to need to be addressed when it goes to escrow, when it goes to closing.
So this is just kind of a quick synopsis of a title review. Hopefully it gives you some insight into the importance of reviewing this title and knowing that you want to have your clients also reviewing these. I'm gonna stop that and yeah, I thank you, Scott, for taking time to kind of go through the title report and there's a lot of different scenarios. This is just one, report and each one's different. And like Scott had mentioned before, call your title officer if you have questions, but review it with, with your clients, review it before you list a property. And just make sure that you understand the importance of reviewing a title report. So I think that wraps, we can wrap it up. And I thank you, Scott, again for joining me and taking the time to make this video. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
you're welcome.
All
Happy
right.
to do it.
All right. Thank you so much.